Sometimes, silence reveals more than words ever could. A glance that lingers longer than usual. A seemingly casual question filled with concern. A small gesture that leaves you feeling unsettled. When a married man starts looking at you in a way that feels different from everyone else, you sense it even if no one says a word. This video isn't here to judge anyone, nor to encourage anything inappropriate. It's here to help you understand, to know where you stand and what you should do if you ever find yourself in such a situation. Hit subscribe so you won't miss meaningful topics like this, and watch until the end as we decode the subtle, often unexpected signs that may be revealing more than you think. Sometimes, silence reveals more than words ever could. A glance that lingers longer than usual. A seemingly casual question filled with concern. A small gesture that leaves you feeling unsettled. When a married man starts looking at you in a way that feels different from everyone else, you sense it even if no one says a word. This video isn't here to judge anyone, nor to encourage anything inappropriate. It's here to help you understand, to know where you stand and what you should do if you ever find yourself in such a situation. Hit subscribe so you won't miss meaningful topics like this, and watch until the end as we decode the subtle, often unexpected signs that may be revealing more than you think. Now the main part. You begin to notice subtle changes in the way he is present when near you, not the kind of presence of someone trying to impress, but the presence of someone searching for something that perhaps even he has not named yet. He does not try to cross boundaries, but there seems to be something in his eyes always waiting for you to say something you yourself are not clear about. These changes are usually very small, very human, and for that reason, often misunderstood or overlooked. But what makes you uneasy is not a specific action, but the feeling they leave behind. A feeling that is both attractive and makes you feel guilty, even though you haven't done anything wrong. This is not the feeling of taking a risk, but the feeling of a gray area, where ethics, emotions, and personal needs intersect without clear boundaries. When a married man starts giving you more attention than necessary, he is not always aware of it himself. Sometimes, that attention comes from a very deep place inside him, a place where emotions have been suppressed, where wounds have not yet healed, or simply a place where he feels like himself without being judged. Not everyone is looking for an affair. Sometimes all they seek is a little sense of connection, of being recognized, and unintentionally, you become the one holding a mirror that reflects that part of him. However, it is precisely that unintentional aspect that is the starting point for many more serious matters than you might think. Emotions can begin very simply, as empathy, but they have the potential to develop in ways neither side can control if they are not sufficiently aware. That is why recognizing the early signs is an act of self-protection, not judgment of others. You may notice that he gradually shares more private, deeper things with you, about work, about feelings, about things he rarely tells anyone. He starts asking your opinion on matters unrelated to work, as if seeking a different perspective, a way out of the daily routine. Perhaps he indirectly talks about difficulties in his marriage, mentioning feelings like not being himself anymore, or every day feels the same. Although he does not say it outright, the message behind it is clear. He feels neglected, faded away, and you are the one who makes him feel alive again. But here is the most important thing. You are not responsible for healing him. Emotions are very real, but they are not always right. And when emotions come from someone else's emptiness, they can make you feel important, but at the same time, place you in a dangerous position. Because if a man is seeking connection as a solution to loneliness in his marriage, anyone who gives him that feeling can become the special one. And without clear awareness, you may become a temporary, emotional medicine, not because you are not valuable, but because he himself does not clearly know what he truly needs. The moment you start wondering, am I imagining things? Is this just politeness? Or is there something more? That is when you should pause and observe more. Not observe him, but observe your own feelings. Because hurt does not come from what others do, but from your failure to set boundaries for what you feel. What makes you feel special when he pays attention to you? Are you listening to your heart, or are you hearing echoes from the parts of yourself that have not yet been fulfilled? We are not here to say every such connection is wrong. But it cannot be denied that many relationships have started from very similar feelings. A small empathy, a longer look, a moment of weakness. The issue is not with the feelings, but with the choices. And choices only truly matter when you are fully aware of your position in that story. You have the right to recognize attraction, but you also have the right to step back. You can empathize, but you can also refuse to become a temporary comforter. You don't need to break anything to feel worthy of love. True affection does not make you question your own moral values. In the end, remember this: his different look at you is not necessarily a sign of love. Sometimes, it is just the whisper of a lost soul looking for a place to rest. And if you are alert enough, you will know that you are not the temporary stop on someone else's emotional journey. Emotional connection is never just about what is said, but about how someone makes you feel when they are present. When a married man begins to interact with you with consistent emotional attention, whether silently or through small actions, you start to sense an unusual presence. He may never say that he misses you, but his continual presence in your little world tells a different story. A message during lunch break. A glance searching for you in a crowd. A question about your mood, not out of politeness, but because he genuinely wants to know. That's where the subtle shift begins. It's no longer just ordinary conversations. It feels as if you are stepping into a space created only for the two of you, a separate emotional buffer from the rest of the world. And this doesn't come from a conscious decision, it is often a silent development. As if between two people a special language is emerging, a tacit understanding that needs no many words. Carl Jung once wrote, "Every deep relationship is a meeting of two unconscious worlds." When a man starts reflecting his unmet needs through you, you are not just someone he talks to, you become an emotional mirror reflecting the parts he cannot express with words. Sometimes, you don't even have to respond. Your listening, your presence, your gaze, these all become acts of validation. You are not just a witness but a keeper of his emotional memories. And that is power. One of the most subtle yet clear signs is when he begins to share his most vulnerable parts. The disappointments. The forgotten dreams. The moments of loneliness in his own life. You are not asked to be a therapist, but you are given the role of an emotional refuge. And that, even unintentionally, opens the door to a bond beyond ordinary social interaction. Many women at this stage begin to feel internal conflict. On one hand, they realize something unusual is happening. On the other, no actions clearly cross ethical boundaries. It is precisely in this emotional gray zone that intuition becomes the strongest tool. Because a man doesn't need to touch you to make you feel drawn in. He only needs to approach with a level of attention that makes you feel special. And that is easy to misinterpret, easy to create expectations. You start to wonder, is this real? But emotions, as Jung said, do not need to be rational to be true. They just need to be felt. When you enter the state of anticipating a message, a glance, a question, that is when the emotional bond begins to form. The danger here is not sexual attraction, but existential attraction. He makes you feel seen, validated, important. And if you are at a point in your life where you also feel disconnected, that bond can feel like a light shining in the dark. But remember, not every light leads to freedom. Some lights are illusions born from longing. This attachment, if not recognized in time, can become an emotional loop. You don't know where you stand in that relationship, but you know you are no longer an outsider. You become the keeper of secrets, the chosen one, but also the one who cannot name her own role. Jung warned, we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So the hardest part is not to stop emotions, but to face them honestly. You need to ask yourself, is this connection coming from truth or from lack? Because if you are just filling the empty parts within him, then you are being used to maintain a balance he does not dare to break in his marriage. And that is not fair to you. You deserve to be a clear choice, not a temporary escape. You deserve to be loved by someone emotionally free, not by someone trying to find himself through you. Recognizing this truth does not make you cold. It makes you strong. Because from the place of awareness, you can choose what is worthy of you. Not all attention is care. Not all closeness is love. And not every connection leads to happiness. The power lies in seeing this before it consumes you. Those seemingly harmless shares, a passing worry, a childhood memory, or just a sigh about feeling unseen, gradually become pieces forming a complex spiritual bond between two people. And the danger here doesn't lie in any specific wrongful act. It lies in the subtle shifts in emotion, in the eyes, in the hesitant rhythm of words, in the silence after each message, where both understand but neither speaks. That's when you begin to realize this relationship is no longer just a casual conversation. It has become a refuge for the unspoken, a space where both can be a more honest version of themselves, or at least the version they long to show. And that is what makes you irreplaceable in his eyes. Not because you do anything different, but because you have become the witness to the deepest parts of him that few have touched. He begins to reveal things no one else has heard. Old wounds from his youth. The quiet failures he hides behind a confident smile every day. The exhaustion from always having to appear strong in a world that expects men never to be weak. And you listen. Without interrupting. Without judging. Just being present. That presence is the medicine he can't find anywhere else. It gives him the feeling of being seen, understood without having to prove anything. And although you don't intend it, you become the faint light in the darkness he never dares to name. But precisely because of that, you also become the center of a kind of emotion that is easily misunderstood and easily lost. Carl Jung once said, "We do not meet people as they are, but as we are." When a married man looks at you warmly, he may not only see you, but also those lost emotional parts of himself. And he starts to assign you the meaning of release, of a chance to start over, of something never formed but still vividly alive in his imagination. You start to feel that his words carry a different tone. Each message is no longer just content, but implication. Every inquiry is not just care but a step closer. A facial expression. A prolonged ellipsis as if to hold on to the conversation. An emoji at the end of a sentence standing in for what cannot be said. And all those small details, seemingly insignificant, stir a simmering vibration hard to let go. You sense that you are playing a special role. You are the only one he tells about the strange dream last night. The first person he thinks of when something makes him happy. The one who, just by seeing your thoughtful status, immediately sends a message asking if you're okay. And in this in-between relationship, a fascinating overlapping space emerges. It has no name, but it's full of feeling. The boundary is drawn by fragile respect, then blurred by excessive empathy. The closeness grows without any physical touch. And because there is no physical contact, it becomes easier to accept, to deny, to justify. You tell yourself it's just a soulmate friend. You think so? But emotions don't obey logic, and pure friendship rarely makes your heart race just from a normal sentence. Notice the change in his eyes when you accidentally meet. Does he hold the gaze longer than usual? Does he seem to be waiting for something from you, a returning look, a slight smile as an unspoken promise? It's not a fault, but it's a signal. And these signals, if not recognized in time, will lead you farther from your safe zone before you realize it. This is not an accusation against him or you. It is an invitation to see the truth clearly. Because sometimes, the deepest pain is not caused by action, but by ambiguity. Ambiguity that torments you, making you wonder if you have crossed the line, if you are destroying someone's happiness. And ambiguity makes you vulnerable, because you never know for sure what is real and what is just imagination. You deserve clarity. You deserve to know where you stand in someone else's mind. And you deserve the freedom to choose your own path before emotions carry you too far. Communication can be the glue that binds, but it can also be a double-edged sword if not placed in the light of honesty. When a married man gives you the most essential parts of his emotions, listen, but also illuminate. Because at the end of that emotional connection may not be love, but a void desperately trying to be filled. All those subtle signs, the quiet messages sent late at night, the unusually deep conversations, the confessions that go far beyond the limits of a purely platonic relationship, are not accidental. They are silent indicators, the cracks in boundaries that were previously set. And then one day you realize, This relationship is no longer just friendship. You have been drawn into an ambiguous space where emotions are kindled in the dark, not to grow into something public, but to sustain some kind of emptiness within him. He's not just seeking you, but seeking an escape. It is within this unnamed emotional intimacy that you begin to fall into a mentally conflicted loop. You feel closeness, care, and even signs of attachment. But all of this happens on the periphery of an existing commitment, his marriage. He may never have touched you physically, but he has let his heart slide toward you in the deepest ways. And the truth is, this sometimes leaves more consequences than a secret handshake or a hurried kiss. Because physical intimacy can be a moment, but emotional intimacy, when uncontrolled, can create dependence, a kind of addiction to feeling needed, listened to, prioritized. You may find yourself starting to rationalize for him, sympathizing with what he lacks in his marriage, even telling yourself, "I'm not doing anything wrong." But that's when ruthless honesty with yourself is needed. Not every care is love. Not every connection deserves to be nurtured. And not every hurt requires you to become the healer. There are pieces of inner brokenness that can only be healed from within the person, not by the presence of a third party. When you become the only one who understands him, pause and ask yourself, are you helping him reconnect with himself, or are you inadvertently allowing him to avoid his reality? Because sometimes, a man doesn't seek you as an individual but as a symbol, a flawless image of a version of life he believes he missed. And if you're not careful, you will become a player in someone else's inner tragedy, where you have no script, no control, and most importantly, no commitment. You deserve to be present in a relationship where you don't have to walk on invisible strings of caution and guilt. You deserve to be loved in the light, not in the shadows. Emotional connection, to be lasting and healthy, must be built on the foundation of mutual freedom, not something borrowed from the cracks in someone else's life. A mature and decent man will not let you become a substitute, silence, or a temporary refuge. He will clarify his heart before moving toward anyone else. He will choose you with integrity, not avoidance. If you feel you're in an ambiguous relationship where everything seems like nothing, but drains your mind every day, allow yourself to step back. Ask yourself, could this feeling exist without secret messages, unexpected meetings, confessions wrapped in the guise of friendship? If the answer is no, then it is not a genuine relationship, it is a gilded escape. You cannot force someone to be honest with you if they are not honest with their own life. But you can choose to be honest with yourself, that you are not here to be the solution for someone else's lack. You are here to be loved, to be respected, and to build something fulfilling with someone, not to fill the emptiness of a fractured marriage. Because in the end, what keeps you in that emotional relationship is not love, but the illusion of the role you play, the illusion that you are doing the right thing, the illusion that the connection is special. But if that feeling cannot withstand the light of truth, then it is not love. It is a shadow. And you deserve a love that doesn't have to hide in the dark. But what surprises you is not what he does, but how he does all of it quietly, without demands, without show. He doesn't say he misses you, but you feel it in the way he always finds an excuse to appear at just the right moment. Not to seek attention, but simply to be there, as if his presence alone is a confession. There is a kind of silent yet persistent emotion conveyed through that patience. No need to express it, no need to flirt, just consistently being there, and sometimes, that is even stronger than hurried words of love. You begin to realize that he is creating a space between the two of you that didn't exist before. A soft yet intense space where you feel seen without being forced to respond. And that is the most dangerous moment, when you start to ask yourself, if he changes everything for me, shouldn't I change a little for him? You find yourself starting to look forward to his messages in the morning. You smile when he sends a meaningless meme just to see you laugh. And gradually, your mind starts revolving around his presence just as he revolves around yours. This emotional closeness develops without touch, without holding hands or kissing. Just a quiet understanding between two souls gradually coming closer, but no one dares to name it. Because naming it could shatter everything. When a man begins seeking validation not from his current partner, but from another woman, It is not only a crack in the old relationship, it's the beginning of a new connection. And unfortunately, sometimes you are not the one who started it. You are simply the person who enters at the right time, when his heart needs a place to shelter. The danger lies in not knowing whether you are a temporary stop or the final destination. You don't want to become someone he only turns to when he feels emptiness elsewhere. But you also can't deny that those aimless conversations make you feel connected in a deep way that few people have ever brought. He doesn't say much, but every word makes you feel special. And that makes you wonder, is this true feeling, or just an escape disguised as tenderness? Then you start noticing the silent jealousy in his eyes. He never says it out loud, but you can feel it every time you mention another man. Seemingly innocent questions like, who is he? Or, do you see him a lot? Actually carry more layers of emotion than you realize. It's not control, it's fear that someone else will take the place he's quietly trying to build in your life. When you compliment him, his eyes light up like a child receiving praise for the first time. When you are silent or show indifference, he withdraws, not out of pride, but because his heart is now hanging between hope and disappointment. You realize his feelings depend on your reactions, and that both touches you and scares you. Because true feelings shouldn't be carried on the shoulders of someone who is not ready to bear them. And you also know that if he hasn't decisively left the old world behind, then you becoming his new world is very fragile. Maybe you are just a buffer zone, a comfortable silence amid conflicts he hasn't resolved. You start asking yourself, if he can change for me, could one day he also change for someone else? The consistent presence today might be a presence stolen from somewhere else. And the tenderness given to you might be the portion of affection that should belong to another. You don't want to be the intruder, but you also don't want to walk away. In the end, what you need is not a man who changes for you, but a man who has changed himself first, to come to you whole, without hesitation, without division. Love, if it doesn't come from a pure and clear place, no matter how sincere, can easily become a shadow that causes both to lose their way. There is a sad truth that many women only realize when they have gone too far. Love is not always something to cherish, especially when it comes from someone unwilling to take responsibility for it. A man who is already bound, who has an unfinished story, yet comes to you as if you were the next chapter, while his past is far from over. That is not a beginning. That is an interruption. And you, whether you want it or not, become a supporting role in a play that was never yours to star in. Love can come very naturally, through glances, care, long conversations, the feeling of being understood after many lonely months. You begin to believe this is a true connection. And perhaps, a part of him believes it too. But the truth does not lie in fleeting moments. It lies in what he is willing to sacrifice to maintain that relationship. A man who truly chooses you will not let you live in ambiguity. He will not love you halfway, nor make you a refuge for his emotions whenever he's tired of his current life. Because love is not a substitute. It is a choice. But if you have to wait for his message, guess every gesture, wonder if he will show up or disappear today, that is not love. It is emotional exhaustion. You are not born to be a pit stop for someone who is lost. You do not deserve to be the one who makes him feel alive, only to be forgotten when he returns to reality. Your feelings are not tools to heal wounds he is too afraid to face himself. And you have no responsibility to be the light in a tunnel he has no intention of walking out of. You deserve more than that. You deserve someone who never makes you wonder where you stand in his life. Someone who does not make you a temporary choice to fill the voids he does not understand himself. Someone who seeks you not only when things are chaotic but holds your hand when everything is calm, because your presence is not a remedy, but a vital part of a life he is committed to nurture. Have you ever asked yourself, why must you sacrifice your peace for something unclear? Why must you live in anticipation of something he himself cannot name? Why do you allow your heart to be bent to the erratic rhythm of someone unwilling to face the truth? The answer lies in the courage to walk away. Not because you don't love, but because you love yourself more. When you start choosing clarity over ambiguity, wholeness over broken pieces, that is when you truly mature in love. That is when you stop hoping someone will change for you, and begin acting because you deserve someone who is already ready. A A healthy love does not make you question every day. It does not make you feel guilty for demanding commitment. It does not force you to accept half just because you're used to receiving less. A true lover will not let you suffer in silence, then justify it with, "Things are complicated." The greatest complexity is not in the circumstances. It lies in the lack of clarity. And if you live in a relationship where you always have to guess whether today you are loved or not, then it is not a relationship meant for you. Be brave enough to step out of ambiguity. Look straight into the truth that if you have to excuse his behavior, if you have to comfort yourself with less is better than nothing, you are lulling your own heart into accepting less than you deserve. Love doesn't come in parts. It doesn't choose when to appear. It doesn't require you to endure in order to prove something. It arrives when both are free, ready, and committed to building on a foundation of honesty. And if you haven't found that yet, maybe you haven't truly loved. Maybe you are just lost in an illusion.